Good morning, everyone. University President, Brother Bernard Oka, FSC. Provost and Vice President for Academics, Dr. Robert Roleda. Senior Vice President, Ms. Kaishan Fernandez. Thank you so much for inviting me to this ceremony. To the distinguished Lasallian administrators, university fellows, faculty members, parents, guests, and of course, my fellow Lasallians. It's wonderful to see all of you here. It's truly an honor to be here today. Standing on this stage feels deeply personal to me. De La Salle is my beloved alma mater. Almost 30 years ago, I sat where you are right now, wearing a similar robe and wondering what the future held. I graduated with a degree in computer science in 1996. And before I joined the corporate world, my first job was as a full time consultant and a part time lecturer at this very school. I taught students not much younger than I was back then. So being here today, decades later, is more than full circle. It's a privilege. And thank you for letting me be part of this milestone in your lives. But if I'm being honest, I didn't start college feeling confident. In fact, I had so many doubts in my first year. I came in thinking I was smart, but then I got into the honors section of the College of Computer Studies, surrounded by classmates who were much smarter than I was and who were already coding in high school. I recall one classmate who would sleep through the lectures and still get perfect scores. And by the way, one of my first professors was your university registered Dr. Nelson Marcos. We called him McCoy. I felt completely out of my depth. I started wondering if I'd made a mistake. I remember going to the guidance counselor more than once, and she gently suggested that I consider shifting to a different course. I may have been unsure, but I knew one thing. I didn't want to give up just because something was hard. So I stuck it out, and I'm glad I did, because that decision, made in the middle of self doubt, turned out to be one of the best I ever made. It's been almost 30 years since I graduated. That's 3 decades of working in technology, product management, and transformation. As I look back at my career journey to prepare for this speech, I realize how much I've changed, how much I've learned from each decade, and how each decade taught me lessons that brought me to where I am now. So today, I want to share 3 lessons with all of you. One lesson from each decade of my career, from my 20s, my 30s, and my 40s. Lesson one, my 20s. Say yes and stay curious. Maybe some of you already know what you want to do. But if you were like I was, you don't. And that's okay. In my 20s, I said yes to opportunities. Some I was ready for, some I wasn't. I tried roles that intimidated me because I wanted to learn and figure out what I was good at. So I became a part time lecturer, a consultant. I designed systems, created UI and UX manuals. I wrote specs for developers. I became head of MIS for a startup. By the way, MIS is what they used to call IT back in the 90s. And I even handled IT procurement at one time. The point of all this was I didn't have a clear path, but I said yes because I was young and I was curious. Trying many things also helped clarify what I did not want to do. For example, I discovered very early on that I didn't want to be a developer. Then I became a product manager for Lotus Notes. Now I'm going to show my age here. Most of you probably don't know what Lotus Notes is. Before Slack, or Google Docs, there was Lotus Notes. It was an all in one platform for chatting, sharing files, and getting approvals. It was groundbreaking and also clunky, but I loved it. Why? Because I saw how the right product, built with intention, could solve real problems. Becoming a product manager was the beginning of my self discovery. That's when I realized what I wanted to do with my career. That's when I started to notice what lit me up, the kind of problems I wanted to solve, the work that didn't feel like work, the things that made me lose track of time. That was my aha moment. I realized that what I loved wasn't just technology, it was using technology to solve problems and make things better. And that thread, using tech to solve problems, has stayed with me to this day. But I wouldn't have found that thread if I hadn't stayed curious, if I hadn't said yes to roles that I wasn't sure about, if I hadn't been willing to start over again and again. Saying yes, even before you're ready, is how you discover what you're made for. Curiosity is your compass. Trust it. So that's lesson one. Say yes, stay curious, try new things. You don't need to have it all figured out today. You'll discover what you love, not by thinking, but by trying, by learning, and by doing. Lesson two, my 30s. If you want to make real impact, don't try to do it alone. I've always been relentless about fixing things and solving problems. I want things to not just work, but work well and look great. Because good design makes things work better. So early in my career, I learned to succeed by tapping into my strength of solving problems. And I figured as the problems got bigger, I'll just work harder. But the truth is, you can't create real and lasting impact by yourself. In my 30s, I was already at Globe Telecom. I started by managing a few products. I then became head of Globe's product management organization, responsible for the entire portfolio across prepaid, postpaid, and broadband. And I eventually became Globe's chief information officer, leading a team of over 1,000 people. I realized that at that scale, I had to let go of doing everything by myself, and that the best outcomes happen when you build teams that solve problems together. Because the more complex the work became, the more I needed to lead through others, not just with direction, but with trust. But here's the thing, when I first stepped in that CIO role, I wasn't exactly welcomed with open arms. I'd spent most of my career in product at that point and had no deep engineering experience. So, to the hardcore IT folks, I was seen as an outsider. I knew I had to earn their trust. And I did that by being in the trenches with them. Major outage, I was in the war room with them. If they didn't sleep, neither did I. I remember one particularly tough episode. A system issue disrupted SMS, calls, and data for a segment of customers. We worked side by side for days, barely sleeping, until it was resolved. That experience wasn't just about fixing a technical issue, it was about showing them that I was willing to do the hard work with them, and that built trust. It was also in my 30s that I developed a personal ethos I still carry today. If something is worth doing, there's always a way to make it happen. I stopped accepting no when I knew something had to get done. No budget, no time, too hard. I pushed back, not to be difficult, but because I believed better was possible. And when others started doing the same, the impact grew. When people around me began to rethink limits, challenge the status quo, and share that same bias for action, we were able to change the game. The capabilities we built enabled Globe to be more than just a telco. We transformed our systems and, more importantly, our mindset to focus on enabling the digital lifestyle of Filipinos. Challenging the status quo led us to launch free Facebook in 2014, the first in the world, opening up social media access to millions. We also introduced services like Spotify, NBA League Pass, and Netflix, making it easier for people to enjoy the content they loved seamlessly bundled into their plans. Looking back, what I'm most proud of isn't the technology. It's knowing that my team helped people discover new ways to connect and to enjoy life. Because real impact isn't just about what you do, it's about the mindset you foster and the culture that you help shape. And that's what creates a multiplier effect. That's how you move from driving change to enabling it at scale. Real impact doesn't happen because of one brilliant leader. It happens when people come together with a shared mission and the willingness to go through the challenges together. There's a saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So, lesson two is this: if you want to make real impact, don't try to do it alone. Lesson three, my 40s. Purpose finds you through action. In my 40s, I made one of the biggest leaps of my career. In 2019, the CEO of Globe, Ernest Koo, asked me to take on one of the most critical challenges at GCash, to lead the modernization of its technology and operations in preparation for scale. At the time, GCash was a subsidiary, a fast growing startup with bold ambitions, but still small compared to Globe. I was leading a large organization within Globe with a seat at the leadership table. So I hesitated. Stepping into a leaner, scrappier setup felt like a risk. But Ernest had a clear vision. He told me that if we truly want to uplift the country, we have to solve financial inclusion. And GCash is our best shot at doing that. That struck me. After all, I was already in Globe when GCash was just an idea on a whiteboard. And when it was first launched as an SMS based service in 2004. Come to think of it, GCash was born around the same time you guys were. But for many years, it actually felt like this product would never catch on. I remember using GCash in a drugstore back in 2005. And it took me so long because they had to find the one person in the entire store with one of those old devices who could accept GCash payment. So this invitation seemed like an exciting opportunity to help bring GCash to its full potential and enable it to drive financial inclusion to Filipinos at scale. So I said yes. I decided to go where I was needed most. In January 2020, I moved full-time to GCash. My first mission was to modernize our core system to make sure it can handle more users, be more reliable, and be more prepared for widespread use across the country. But just weeks later, the world changed. Suddenly, we found ourselves in the middle of a full scale transformation during the onset of a global pandemic. It was like replacing the engine of a plane while flying it during a storm. More than 150 people worked on this mission critical migration, all remotely, over Zoom. Many of us had never even met in person. We had to build trust virtually and stay aligned while people worried about their families, their futures, their health. Sometimes that meant keeping morale up with care packages and meals sent across the country. And somehow, we did it. But more than the tech, what powered us through was a deeper sense of purpose. We were helping people survive. I could tell you many stories of how GCash made a difference during those most difficult of times. There was a tricycle driver who got a loan through GCash to support his family when he couldn't work. A small store owner who learned to accept QR payments to stay in business. A single mom who sold baked goods online and sent money to loved ones in the province. Even Brother Bernie had some stories. We even helped change how ayuda was distributed. 16.3 billion pesos in government aid reached 2.4 million Filipinos directly through GCash. These weren't just transactions, they were lifelines. GCash became a thread of connection, of resilience, and of dignity for millions of Filipinos navigating life through lockdowns and loss. And all of that was possible because of the work we had done. GCash was ready when the world, well, the country, needed it most. In just a few months, usage skyrocketed. Millions of people, many of whom have never used digital finance before, were suddenly relying on it to send money, pay bills, access credit, buy insurance, even start small online businesses. Before the pandemic, only 29% of Filipinos were banked. Today, that number is 65%. GSave has opened 13 million new savings accounts. GLoans, GGives, and GCredit have disbursed 250 billion pesos to nearly 9 million borrowers. 50 million insurance policies have been issued through GInsure. GStocks has brought 1.2 million first-time investors into the stock market. Even crypto, once reserved for the few, is now in the hands of 3 million everyday Filipinos. Financial inclusion, which had once felt like an ambitious goal, was finally becoming a reality. And that experience changed me. I had done transformations before, but this one was different because this time it wasn't just about replacing systems. It was about building something that truly mattered and seeing the impact firsthand. That's when I realized this is purpose. It's not just a buzzword, it's not a line in a vision statement. It's a deep sense of why you do what you do and who it's for. It's that quiet clarity, the kind that keeps you going when things get hard. So here's my third lesson. Purpose finds you through action. You don't have to know your purpose right away. In your 20s, you probably won't. I didn't. You might just know what excites you, what you want to fix, what you care about, and that's enough. Because purpose often reveals itself through the work. When you say yes to something uncertain and commit to seeing it through, that's when it finds you. In a month, I turned 50. And honestly, I feel like I'm just getting started. There's still more I want to do, more I want to learn, more that I want to build, bigger problems I want to help solve, and more people I want to help. That sense of purpose still drives me today. I still want to continue using technology to solve people's problems. That's the beautiful thing about a life of purpose. It doesn't have an endpoint. Eventually, you stop chasing titles and start thinking about legacy. Not what people say about you, but what continues because of you. Legacy is the system that keeps running because you built it well. It's the team that thrives because you coach them with heart. It's the product that still solves problems long after you've moved on. You might have noticed that I've said say yes more than once. That's because every major turning point in my journey began with those two words. You don't find your purpose and then take action. You take action and purpose finds you. So as you all head out into this next chapter, don't worry if you don't have it all figured out. You just need to be curious. Be willing to try and be relentless when it counts. Remember that you can't do it alone. Work with others, work through others, and listen for the quiet voice of purpose. It's already there, waiting for you to notice. You're stepping into a world full of challenges, but also a world with powerful new tools. Tools that my generation never had. I had to go to the library to do research. You, you have a world of information in your pocket. And now you have AI, robotics, biotech, quantum computing, innovations that are reshaping what's possible in every field. My generation used technology to solve some big problems. Your generation will solve the ones we couldn't. And I believe you will. Because you grew up believing that anything is possible, anything is accessible, anything is solvable. You're more connected, more imaginative, and more mission driven than any generation before you. So, congratulations, class of 2025. You are builders, the leaders, the solvers, the future. I can't wait to see what you'll create. Mabuhay kayong lahat and animo lasal!